Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
That it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories generally speaking, but they're different.
Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
And Kimberly Lynn Hansen.
Well, get your hearts up.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the IMEC Open Tables for April 28th, 2021. We're so very glad to have every last one of you guys here. Before we get started, we need to go through a quick disclaimer. So if we can go ahead and get the disclaimer on the screen, and we'll go through this and get the fun legal stuff right out of the way right now. I appreciate our backstage hands here, our producer, Heather. She's done an amazing job so far. We appreciate her backstage. Ladies and gentlemen, the content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regard to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's have some fun tonight. That's right. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Golden Mandy's. What is the Golden Mandy's? I bet you guys have some guesses. We're going to get into that here at the end of the show, so you guys stick around to see something you don't want to miss. But before we get into that, let's get into our amazing panel here, our board members of the International Mandela Effect Conference, starting with our amazing president, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson. How's life going for you, Miss Cynthia?
Pretty good. Things are going great. And I guess the biggest announcement I have is that I did win an award. So if you've got the slide for that, it was a big surprise. This last month, I was awarded winner of the 2021 Best of Berkeley Award. That was in the category Professional, Scientific, and Technical Services. And some people would say, well, what is this award? It is what it is. But because it's professional, scientific, and technical in this university town of Berkeley, which has UC Berkeley, which has one of the top quantum computing labs in the world, as well as many other businesses of all kinds of scientific and technical nature. This is extraordinary. So I do know a lot of scientists that work at UC Berkeley. They know what I do. In the past, that would have been considered fringe. So I'm very honored that somehow I made it to this list and have been selected. So I really want to thank everybody who had part of that. I don't know who made that decision, but I'm very honored.
Congratulations, Miss Cynthia. That is absolutely amazing. I am so glad to see that. And that was for realityshifters.com then, yes?
Yes, and that's the website I've been publishing under. I've got the trademark for it, and because there was someone that came along with the Reality Shifter trademark, so that was exciting. But anyway, I managed to reclaim it. I've been following this Mandela Effect since the 1990s, as you all know. So basically, that's what I've been writing about before it was known as the Mandela Effect. So I'm just glad that this is being recognized and recognized scientifically. That's really huge for all of us. So it's a big win for all of us at IMEC as well.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Cynthia. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you, Berkeley, for awarding that to our amazing president. That is, congratulations. I can't say it enough. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, our vice president, Mr. Christopher Anatra, the quantum businessman. How's the world going for you, Mr. Chris?
The world is going pretty good. I'm pretty busy, working on a lot of projects.
As people know, I've got my Symphony of Realities videos that I'm creating. I'm about to post one this Friday that talks about the concept of what a bubble of reality is. And I also get into dragons and so forth. It's a very interesting one. And it's kind of fun too. When you guys see it, you'll be like, what? But I had some fun with that. And then the other thing that I'm working on too is doing another series of video projects that I'm calling Earth Missions. And these are going to be really interesting as well. I think when you watch those, you'll be like, you'll learn a lot. And the first Earth mission that I'm doing is called Save the Northern White Rhino. And there's a lot of good information with that. And hopefully there's just going to be a series of videos. It's sometimes difficult for me with, family stuff, business stuff, and all these videos, which I love doing. So working on those and a lot of other little projects here and there. So.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. Guys, if you haven't checked out the Symphony of Reality series over at Christopher and Natra's channel, definitely check that out. It's an amazing series. I hope you got at least a couple hours. There's a lot of them over there. How many are we up to now?
I'm going to, what I'm releasing this Friday and the following Friday are the last parts of what I call Act 5. Act 6 has to do with history, which is really interesting. And my whole plan was to have a total of 8 acts altogether that kind of span, how I interpret what's going on with reality and timelines and so forth. So there'll be 8 acts in total. And if things keep on track, I should be finished with all 8 videos by the summer. So
that is amazing. Way to go, my friend. That is awesome. So, guys, go over and check out Christopher and Natra's Quantum Businessman channel and the Symphony of Reality series. He even had an intermission in there. That was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was cringe.
Yeah, that was good.
Love it.
I really enjoyed that. Ladies and gentlemen, up next we have our Secretary of the International Mandela Effect Conference, Mr. Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. How's reality on your side of the fence, my friend?
Oh man, there's so much going on, so much momentum right now, just in the field. So many Mandela effects. I don't know if you guys have been noticing them. Little things, little shifts here and there. Some things I can't even mention, but it'll sound like a song that and it just sound like they recorded it on a different day or something, So I'm noticing a lot of little bitty things that I can't even really mention, plus, all the things that we are talking about. So much, a lot going on with the Mandela Effect. I've been doing a lot of music and stuff lately. So just really just trying to have a good time,
Absolutely, my friend. And have the rest of you guys been seeing Mandela effects recently? You got to say what they are, but have you been seeing an uptick recently?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Cynthia.
Well, I was going to say that often we've noticed that these happen a lot in the springtime, that there's this kind of an equinox effect, if you will. So they're right around, there are 2 equinoxes every year. So we've got one in the spring, one in the fall. And I think we're getting that massive spring rush that we often see right around now, April.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that, when I drive to work, I swear there are new things. Their houses have changed colors, or things are not quite the same as I remember them. So all kinds of lots of personal ones, and yeah, like what Shane was saying, that song doesn't sound quite the way I remember it. So yes, they're nonstop happening.
Well, I will tell you, I've had a video on my channel since 2018. It's the Jif peanut butter evidence, Jiffy evidence. I have all the evidence I could find. The other day I signed on. Usually I got 5 or 10 hits a day, no biggie. That's about normal. It had doubled the other day. I was up to 40 hits in 2 days. So and again, this is a video that's in 2018. It's more than any other video on the site. So there's definitely been an influx of people into the community that are really, really curious about what's going on. I've definitely seen an influx in my own videos anyway. Speaking of my own, ladies and gentlemen, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And if you don't know, I have a radio show over on Rippin' Common Sense Radio every Wednesday and Thursday night. Yes, that is tonight. We will be doing it live tonight over on Rippin' Common Sense Radio. I also do different videos every now and again on the channel. My channel is The Dark Wolf's Den Show over on YouTube if you're interested. And we've been doing mainly Mandela Effect content since about 16 or 17 or so. And like I said, we do the paranormal radio show now twice a week, every week. So go check that out. That's what I've been up to. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we need to get in to the sponsors for this amazing program, right? We've got a list of sponsors. Now, I know you guys are thinking, wait a minute, sponsors. Well, they're corporate. No. Wait with us. You're going to like these sponsors. Like our first sponsor up on the list, ladies and gentlemen, Migaloo. Have you guys ever heard of Migaloo? I hadn't. This come up in the group chat we had the other day. Migaloo is the white humpback whale. Spotted in 1991 in the Australia waters, she is the most famous of all humpback whales in the world. The problem is, I don't know about you three, but I've never heard of Migaloo.
And it's a male, by the way. He has fathered some calves. So
my apologies on that one.
That's okay, because it's completely new to me too. I feel like I would have heard of a great white whale. It's so much like Moby Dick, you know. You would think that there'd be all kinds of references and people saying it's a different species or it's the same, but I didn't hear anything about that. So it's quite remarkable.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too. One of the things that I've tuned into about Migaloo, and I talk about this in my fringe videos, is a lot of these albino whales, like anything that's white, usually is some kind of protector, like the white cougar of Brazil. When I read into it, it's like a protector of Brazil. And Migaloo seems to be a protector of the galaxy. And to go one step further with this fringe stuff that I'll talk about, when Migaloo is spotted or revealed, it usually means there'll be a revealing of truths. And now that this Migaloo in two calves, that's a lot of truths that might be revealed in the future. So just something for people to keep an eye on as we go forward in time.
So this is really cool. I do apologize for the misgendering of the whale for those that are upset by that. But not only is in albino, we've seen an uptick in albino in the last year. Is that true?
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder if it isn't a sign or a symbol of something going on. What's that, Cynthia?
Yeah, the white buffalo calves we brought up last episode, and so that was something prophesized. So it was. I think that there's a feeling about that with all of these, and I think it's in keeping with what Chris is calling a fringe kind of a angle on looking at it, a perspective that these are protectors. To the Hopi Native Indigenous people, the white buffalo calf, just for those who missed last episode, we talked about how that's symbolic of uniting all the people of the world. So it's really a very profound. I'm not going to go into the whole legend and everything again, but it's. I think that there's a similarity, especially with something as sacred as a white humpback whale. And Migaloo is brand new to me. And fathering two calves, well, the whole thing is new. But I feel for sure we would have heard about this. I certainly would have expected to have heard about it.
Well, I believe, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me in science class, one of the oddities about albinos is that they cannot reproduce. Because there's a genetic difference from the rest of the species, most of the time I was taught anyway, they could not reproduce. Am I the only one that heard that?
I've not heard that, so that's new to me. But doesn't mean you didn't hear it.
Right. I was just curious because the Migaloo fathered two calves, you said. They were both also white. Now, to pass along albinism, is that kind of rare?
It's definitely rare in the animal world. And for some people, Migaloo may not be a Mandela effect. Someone might say, oh, I've known about Migaloo for years. But his two white calves might be a Mandela effect. One of them is named MJ, which stands for Migaloo Jr. I don't know why they haven't named the other one yet. But overall, it's really, really interesting what's going on with these white animals that are being spotted quite frequently.
Well, go ahead.
And so that's a recessive trait, genetically speaking, that kind of albino. And so that would typically require, or I would expect it would require both parents to be albino in order to have albino offspring. And I haven't heard about a female albino humpback whale. It's a tongue twister. So it's kind of remarkable right there. I don't know how this even happened, frankly.
I'm with you on that. Nature has a funny way, doesn't she? as we know with the Mandela effect. 'Cause there are those that believe it is a natural phenomenon. I'm kind of somewhat in that boat myself, but you guys, sorry, excuse me.
Bless you.
You guys know Eva from Once Upon a Timeline.
Yes.
I was having a conversation with her last night, and she very much believes that things start out and then grow as we watch these things happen. And Migaloo, as you guys, you three know, was one of these cases because when you first found who found Migaloo first? Chris?
I heard about it. Chris told me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember where somebody sent me some. I don't even know.
Okay,
But-
so Chris and Cynthia went on this really deep dive into Migaloo and all stuff about her. Him. Sorry. And then a couple days later, the chat got even more interesting because suddenly we found out that he had fathered two calves that wasn't in the story days prior when all of the research was being done. So this is a story we've seen grow as the effect has come more and more into reality. Eva and I were discussing that last night. She said that's not the first time she's seen that in a lot of different Mandela effects, that they'll start out small and grow into something much bigger.
And this is in keeping with what I've observed over more than 20 years when I recommend people just pay attention, look more closely, and you'll start seeing even more of whatever you're looking at, provided you're open-minded. That's very important. You know, obviously people who are not open-minded, they're a lot less likely to witness this whole phenomenon to begin with.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Are you saying that the Mandela effect seemed to grow once you start watching? The Mona Lisa would be a good one. Like first she had her smile, and then as we started observing her, she got a hairnet, and then I had to Photoshop the hairnet out, and then she got a little wart or mole right next to her eye, right? So I know of like the original plus 3 versions of the Mona Lisa, and in the same way with the Thinker, you know, we had it first.
What I was about to bring up. Yep.
The forehead to under the chin, the sucking on his knuckles. So, and some people remember it off on the side or something too, right?
Yeah, King Henry VIII painting. First he had a turkey leg, and then it went to a chalice, and now it's a glove. So yeah, same type of thing.
It's a glove now.
It looks like a
I
glove.
haven't looked at the update on that one, apparently. All right.
It's a glove.
Got it.
Is it like a Michael Jackson glove? What kind of glove are we talking about here?
There's no rhinestones in it that I could see.
Must have been his dueling glove. Can we? That's not the only white animal we have on our sponsor list, is it, guys? We have another amazing sponsor coming up next: the white albino owl. So, tell us about this one, guys.
Well, what I can say about this one is that it looks fake, doesn't it? You look at it and like, that can't be a real like white owl. That's got to be
a toy.
Yeah, it's got to be mechanical or something. But you can actually watch videos of it. It's a real thing. Again, it's just another, wanted to work its way into our show and become a sponsor, so we fit it in there last minute. But yeah, it's another albino animal that's come onto the timeline.
Very cool.
You guys find that to be cute or kind of creepy, or what? How do you feel about it?
Kind of both. A little cute.
Yeah, a little of both.
I second that. Yes, absolutely. Like I said, it looks like a toy. It looks like something you like wind up or turn on at the bottom of the cage and it would sit there and bounce or something,
It does.
So our second sponsor of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, the white albino owl. And once again, it's this theme that we're seeing across this year is these albino creatures coming into play. And, you said it could be a protector coming in the timeline. I won't deny that even a little bit. But it could also symbolize a bit of purity amongst the insanity that we're seeing in our timeline right now. It could be kind of that reminder that don't worry, the purity's still there, or adding a little bit back into the world, keeping a balance, if you will. I'm just going off the top of my head right now, but what do you guys think?
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is the white sun, right? The albino sun, if you will.
Ooh, no, I didn't even think to connect that one. That's a good one, Shane. perhaps the sun and the effects of the rays of the new sun now is causing more of these white animals to appear.
And here you're referring to it looking a lot brighter. People remember it used to be yellow, softer, kind of a sun.
But also the effect of the sun on items now. It seems to bleach things much faster. It seems to be much hotter. I mean, they've talked about having to change certain materials on boats and things like that because it's just getting too hot now. And have you heard about any of that? So the sun's definitely putting out more heat, but I've noticed the white, which many people say, it's always been that color, which I don't understand, you know? I remember a yellow sun growing up, you know?
Oh, definitely. If I were to go outside today on back then, you'd see the yellow everywhere. You'd feel the warmth, not an intense microwave almost heat that is prickling your skin.
Like an arc welder.
General heat. Now, something else I've noticed with this, it's in the sun, it is hot. In the shade, it is cold. There is no warm areas in the shade like it used to be. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I think that's that northern cool wind you get to enjoy up there.
That might have a little to do with it, let's be honest. Speaking of cool, something else I always liked was like color changing animals. So from a white albino animal to color changes like chameleons, right? So we found a chameleon that should not exist. And he decided he wanted to be our next sponsor. Producer, if we can get the next sponsor card on the screen, that is amazing. Look how quick that is. She is top notch. Look at that. The extinct Voltskow chameleon. Did I say that right? Lord help me if I screwed that up.
Voltskow. Rushki.
So, what is special about the Voltskow chameleon, Chris?
Well, you know, in 1913, they were never spotted again. They were assumed to be extinct. Now, more than 100 years later, they were rediscovered. They're back on the timeline. So for a lot of people, this is actually a new Mandela effect, but it was actually in the news in the year 2020 when this little guy came back onto the timeline. So it's just an example of like another animal that was thought to be extinct, that we were told was extinct, which all of a sudden has made a reappearance again.
That's incredible. So have we seen a multitude of these over the years of animals that are coming unextinct?
Yeah, we should probably compile a list because that's all part of how these things could possibly work with timelines. So if you merge into another timeline where that animal never was extinct, well, guess what? It's going to come back. And when I talk about my fringe intermission, I talk about that kind of a topic as well, especially when it's related to the dodo bird, because now there's more evidence that the dodo birds live longer than we once thought. There's a preserved dodo bird head that I had never heard of before. So all those things are kind of signs that maybe someday the dodo might come back. We'll see.
Back in 17 into 18, I decided to try to track this. I thought it really odd that I was seeing a lot of stories of animals that were suddenly unextinct. So I ended up with something like 30 stories in 6 months of animals that had suddenly come back to the timeline. So I thought that quite interesting. I know there's at least a list that long back then, and I'm sure by now the list has grown exponentially. And it's something I didn't start seeing until the Mandela. So it very well could be the shifting timelines are bringing in animals that were one time gone from our timeline.
Yeah, and it's kind of the opposite effect. If you ever saw that movie Yesterday about the Beatles, explores the concept that you go into a timeline where the Beatles never existed, but that one musician remembered all the Beatles songs. That particular movie was always about taking things out of the timeline. Like he asked for Coke and somebody thought he was asking for drugs because Coca-Cola never existed. It was in a world where only Pepsi existed. So I think we're finding another type of phenomena as these timelines are merging. We could expect to see more and more things being added into the timeline.
And again, this was also prophesied by the Hopis and other indigenous native tribes, suggesting that at some point we would be seeing extinct animals returning. And indeed we are. So it's almost like they were anticipating this timeline conversion situation that seems to be occurring.
But what about the other way around? Do you think there's animals that just sort of disappear and nobody even notices? Or, I mean, like Shazam, right? That was a movie that disappeared. So we know of things that were there once and now apparently never existed. How would we explain the merging timelines in that, do you think?
You know what would be really crazy is if that movie came back
Right.
into the timeline, because there's a timeline
I'd
out
almost
there.
expect
You
that,
know
right?
that, right?
You'd almost expect that it would if we're merging, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So everything's a possibility at this point.
And that's a whole nother discussion we get into about the reality of timelines and the science of the timelines, because I don't think we've quite got that nailed down yet. Like, we could be so far away from the timeline where Shazam was that we could perhaps never see it again because we moved that far away. Again, that's a whole nother show topic, and definitely one we need to look into soon because it's very intriguing. But we're going to have sponsors for that show, right? Like our next sponsor on our list here, the Golden Horses of Turkmenistan. So some people don't remember the country of Turkmenistan, first off. If I hadn't have known or found out about this in the early 2000s, I wouldn't have either. The only way I found out about this country was a friend of a friend went to teach there. And when I asked her, I said, well, where are you going to teach it? She said, Turkmenistan. I'm sorry, what? That's not a country. And she had to show me on the map that it really was. So this showed up for me in 2012, the country did. Now, the Golden Horses of the Mandela Turkmenistan to some people. Tell us about the Golden Horses, guys.
Cynthia, why don't you do that?
Well, this one is amazing. First of all, I think I'm not that unusual when I was a young girl, I collected horses, and I think a lot of us did that. So, and my family had an Encyclopedia Britannica. I love to study about horses. I never saw a golden horse, and that would have been amazing because it would have been a real collector's item, as a toy when you're collecting all these little horses to play with. I never saw anything like this. It looks a lot like an Arabian stallion. It has that kind of a line to its body, but clearly it has that metallic color. I mean, if I didn't know better, this one looks like someone spray painted a horse in the color gold. It just looks that incredible. It's unbelievable. And I've never seen it until we got ready to do this show. So until this week, this was new to me, and it's definitely popped into the timeline, as a lot of these extinct animals are popping into the timeline. So it's not. I don't think.
Blue eyes. So blue eyes are also a trait special to albino, right?
Well, no. Actually, albino often has this lack of pigmentation, so that would be red eyes.
Oh,
I think.
my apologies. You're right. You're right.
So the blue eyes. This fits along the line of what I think Chris has talked about in the first Mandela Effect conference, right? Back in Ketchum, Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
So blue eyes. So if we see a change in eye color toward blue, often that's indicative that there have been some Mandela effects. But as far as a horse's eyes being blue and being colored gold, this is just really incredible. I would have expected to see it when hearing about various breeds of animals, breeds of horses, dogs, and that kind of thing. But I've never heard about this.
Well, you bring up a good point. That as a female, and I don't want to speak to a blanket statement, but most of the females I've known have gone through a phase where horses are like it. There's only obsessed with horses. I don't know why, but that seems to be a thing with a lot of females. So let me ask the chat out here. Have you guys ever heard of the golden horse? Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you have really looked into horses and really got obsessive with it. I know some of you have for sure. Have you guys ever heard of the golden horse? Because I haven't. That's brand new to me. Again, this golden timeline that we seem to find ourselves walking in the last year or so. And this is new to everybody. Nobody's heard of the golden horse back here? That's incredible. And where are these found? They're in Turkmenistan. Are these only found in the Middle East, or have they been found elsewhere? Or?
From the research I saw, that's the one part of the world that they're from. And if I ever had a horse farm, I'd get a couple of these guys for sure.
Oh, heck yeah. Could you imagine driving down the road, look over, it's a horse. It's a, what in the world is that? What did they do to that horse?
Who spray painted that horse?
Wasted millionaire or millennium, I'm sorry, says never heard or seen golden horses. We've got a never, we got a no. Somebody said beautiful. Yeah, I agree. It is absolutely gorgeous. No way. Look at that white whale. Right. No, none of us have heard these creatures. And I don't know every creature, but I think I would know about a golden horse. Like these cultures that build golden statues to animals, things like that. You would think at least one time they would have mentioned, like the golden horse of Turkmenistan, something
Absolutely.
in reference to it.
I feel like maybe the country, the horses, and everything just popped on the scene, right?
Were any ever in the Kentucky Derby? These are the questions we need to know. Like, are there any famous golden horses?
Oh, that's a good question. Have there ever been one of the Kentucky Derbies? I don't know of any.
Or any movies made about them? Exactly.
Never heard of
Lawrence
any.
of Arabia. Where were they in Lawrence of Arabia if they're all over the Middle East?
Right.
I mean, just for one instance, there's been a couple race movies across the Middle East, but it makes you wonder what's causing this, right? I mean, I know everybody has their theories, but what's really causing it? Could it have, hold on a minute, Carlos Cicerino. Forgive me if I butchered that name. I'm a horse lover like Cynthia. I had many Breyer's collection horses and never saw it until some years ago in no books, toys, or any place. It was new to me.
Right. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, it's just brand new. It's out of nowhere.
I think that's a good example too, because we'll see this often where people will experience Mandela effects at different times. So where we've seen it now, and I think that viewer noticed it a few years ago. So it's strange, but not when she was a child, so it popped on the scene for her. So maybe we didn't notice right when it popped on the scene. You just never know. But I often come across that, where somebody's like, oh my gosh, look, this change. I'm like, I noticed that like 3 years ago, so yeah.
And we don't always see things at the same time. So, and that's a great point here, because sometimes there is subjective observation happening, as we've often talked about. There's a physics behind it as well, relating to the experiments that have been done in University of Edinburgh, Scotland, in collaboration with Vienna, Austria, and Laszlo Bruckner and his associates were able to successfully show that two observational devices at the same place, same time, were able to observe two different things in that experimental apparatus. And that's what
do we find that with people that's Mandela affected, where one person sees Febreze in the original spelling and the other person, while they're in the same reality? I
will tell you one thing I have found that I find really odd is a pattern that almost every single person that I've noticed coming in finds. And that's like they start with the same ones that we started with way back when. It's almost like they follow our same pattern. The Berenstein, the GIF, the Luke, I am your father. But to them, it literally just changed. And I've noticed this over and over and over. People be going back to the old ones, but to them, it's brand new and they're new into the effect. It's almost like we follow generally the same path up through the effects, if that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense. I just want to say too, don't forget our last show, the theme was the golden timeline. And how golden animals are a sign that we're on that golden timeline. So again, we keep seeing golden animals, and I think we'll still see more and more.
Good point.
Now we're mixing the gold and the white, right?
White gold.
Which is going back to a purity.
Yep, those are the colors that we see in all of the rock carvings, ancient depictions of the energy field. Is that halo? It's always that golden white light. So it's the same thing across every continent, every culture, every civilization.
And you know me, if you've ever heard my show, when it comes to things like that all these civilizations, information they share, I really tend to dig into that really deeply because I think there's something more to it. And the fact that they're telling us way back then about the gold and the white, and now we're seeing that literally in our timeline being a thing, gold and white actually having a meaning in our timeline. So it makes you wonder, what did the ancients know, right?
Right.
What did they know? What did they know about the sun, for instance? There's been a lot of theories about what could be causing the Mandela effect. And Chris and I, as well as a couple others, have been working on a solar theory, right? And this could have something to do with the solar flares. So if we can get the next slide on the screen, we have a list that is out of this world of recent solar flares. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chris and let him go through this information here.
Yeah, so when you look at this list, what this is this is just a list of the solar flares as reported by spaceweather.com that have happened from April 20th to April 25th. These are just the solar flares. There's also been coronal mass ejections. There's also been geomagnetic storms. So the sun is beginning to have a lot of activity. Now, these weren't big flares. They say that if you were to compare like a flare to like sports, this is like the junior varsity versus the professional league. But still, it's showing that there's something going on with the sun. And, you know, is there a cause and effect between a series of solar flares and a series of Mandela effects? So is there a cause and effect between all these minor solar flares and all these little minor Mandela effects that are starting to appear? So I think it's something that should be definitely looked at. And I know, like, I've gotten clues too, like I think Cynthia has as well, where all of a sudden this big sundial appeared on someone's house that I never saw before. And I'm like, oh, the sun. And I think, Cynthia, you had an example like that as well.
That was the very first experience I had with a Mandela effect with other witnesses right there with me, where we were walking through the Berkeley Marina. And these are people I worked with in a corporate environment at Citibank, high-level managers. I just want people to know this is not, I'm not walking with psychics and, you know, ghost hunters or something. Regular, everyday people. And we witnessed, like, oh my gosh, I was asking, have you guys witnessed anything like these reality shifts that I'm describing back in the 1990s? And they started to answer, like, I think I've seen people change. And then boom, right in front of us is this massive concrete sundial, so huge and it was blocking our path that we always used to walk through. And they said, I've never seen this. And I said, I never have either. And it was blocking the view to another sculpture right there. And that the sundial has remained. It was a gift from a sister city in Japan to city of Berkeley. But I think that's remarkable. And I love that you've also got that sundial bringing space and time together and connected with the sun.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing too I'll add about that is the Titanic. Okay, so that the day the Titanic sank, there was a big geomagnetic storm, and they said that could have thrown off the ship's compass. They thought they were more south on the southern route when they were on the northern route. And what makes that day even more interesting is that all of the headlines that came out. There were some headlines that came out that all the survivors were safe. There were other headlines said, you know, no survivors left, etc. All different kinds of headlines. So I call that a hairball of timelines. When there's a big amount of solar activity, and it could cause all these Mandela effects that all kind of merge together, and then we see the result of that with some strange residue with these newspaper headlines. So all eyes to the sun is what I say, because I think there is some kind of a sign about that. Because as Sherlock Holmes said, you know, once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. So I think we should just keep an eye on it.
And that Titanic incident was correlated with solar flare activity. There was a big solar event at that time, historically. So, and that could have, I think they're saying that could have thrown off some of the navigational systems as well. So it had a big effect, lots of different ways.
And we'll circle back to Holmes and Sherlock here in just a moment. But
You will.
to borrow a common phrase nowadays, we'll circle back. But man, there's so much. We've been following this sun thing for, at least I have, for at least 6 months, if not a little longer, wondering, you know, if there's something to it. And it really amazes me that you found this whole list of solar flares, and at the same time we're having these small changes, these smaller Mandela effects. I haven't seen something like recently that everybody, oh my goodness, what in the world, you know, but we have seen a whole lot of little things. So we're going to continue to try to follow this and see if this does continue to hold hold water as far as the sun being some type of trigger for Mandela effects. And I really believe there's something to this. I truly, truly do. And
It could be
right.
It could be related to excuse me, the possibility of micro black holes being located in the sun, giving us very immediate access to multiple parallel possible realities. So it could be a window into the many worlds is the multiverse. It's too big a thing to go into right here, but I'm just putting that out there. Possible
and
connection.
just to touch on that real quick and to follow that up, physics has recently run an experiment, and the headlines they put out is "We've broken physics." So they're learning new stuff every day in physics, and it could be a whole new physics that they may have just stumbled on. I know that sounds a little exaggerative, but that's literally what the scientists are saying.
It's true. And these are particle physicists. Yeah, that's funny. The muons. That was a funny headline.
Right. So there could be so much more that we could be onto that although it's not accepted science now, accepted science comes from radical ideas, as we've seen across history.
Yes.
So, the Oscars happened the other night. Did you guys watch the Oscars?
Not this time. Too much else going on.
So I don't watch award shows like that much, the Oscars especially. I'm not big on the current situation of the entertainers that do the Oscars. And I'm going to leave it at that because we don't want to get too much into common culture. But wouldn't it be neat if we could have our own award show? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
What would we call it?
How about the Mandys?
The Golden Mandys.
Love it.
That sounds like a plan. Producer, do we have anything that could be anything like hey, look at this. The Golden Mandys, big Mandela Effect at the Oscars this past Sunday. We'll touch on that in just a minute. There was a film nominated for Best Costume Design, Best Makeup, Best Hairstyling. Most had never heard of. Now, wait a minute. How can a film win if nobody knows what the film is? We'll get to what that film is in just a moment. This is the theme of our episode, of course. It is the 5th nominee for our Golden Mandy Awards. The Golden Mandy, we're going to start recognizing those that are really making an effort in trying to push the information forward into the public purview. Those that have went a little bit above and beyond. You'll understand by the time we get to the episode exactly what we mean. We give away our first Golden Mandy for the evening, or for right now anyway. Guys, what is this film in the Oscars that won somehow or was nominated? I don't know if it won. It was nominated in all these different categories, but nobody's ever heard of it. What was this?
Let's go to the next slide because we'll get to it. Let's hold the suspense here.
Actually, I wanted to just say something real fast before we move on. Anyone, if you have a chance, take a look at the way the actual Oscar statue looks, okay?
Yes.
Because to me, it looks more like a robot or like an android. And I went back,
put the slide back up, please. There we go.
Yeah, it's not really that close. If you brought it up in Google Images, you can look it up yourself later. And I went back to 1990 when Daniel Day-Lewis won the award and he was holding it. It looks exactly like this, so it hasn't changed at least since 1990. It just doesn't look right to me. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert at how an Oscar looks, but look at it for yourself, because this could be another little Mandela effect that's kind of crept its way into the show without us really even knowing that. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it looks like for me, it's been looking strange for the last 4 or 5 years to me. But it was just, I thought maybe they'd redesigned it. Hadn't really looked into it closely. It definitely looks more streamlined, more robotic, like you said.
Yeah.
So and I don't know, I'll be honest with you, like I said, I haven't paid enough attention and studied the statue enough to know if there was any changes. So I'm just going to be honest with you, I have no clue one way or the other. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I have no idea. No, it does kind of look robotic, but I can't be sure. The head looks like Iron Man to me. But.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I noticed.
I think I would have noticed that, but I don't know.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about.
I'll give you that. I do recognize that it does look like Iron Man. I just don't know what it compared to beforehand, So with an award, we got to have nominees, right? We have nominees to figure out who's going to win this award. We've got the winner right here. I've got the sealed envelope. It's all completely sealed.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, we'll get to. Do you want to show the next slide because we can show the award?
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to go through the nominees. I just want them to know we've got the winner envelope already sealed and ready to go when we get to the end.
Yes.
Whoever the winner may be. But our first nominee for the Golden Mandy Award of April 2021. If we get the next slide on screen, producer.
Actually, if you went back to the other slide, it just talks about like what we're doing here about with the 6 nominees and so forth.
Oh,
right.
My apologies. I did totally miss that.
Yeah, we got the beautiful Nelson Mandela statue. We have to like highlight that.
This is an original statue, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. This is something we did absolutely create. Hats off to our buddy Shane Robinson over here for some amazing work on this.
I think we had a little assembly line going, so.
We really did. We did. You did the coloring. That was what I was like. I was thinking about I should do this. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and Cynthia did the cropping, so yeah, it was a team effort.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
So how this is going to work, how the Golden Mandy's, at least the first one is going to work, is we have 6 nominees as voted on by the IMEC Board of Directors, us 4 who have voted backstage on each one of these. The winner of the Golden Mandy will be highlighted on the International Mandela Effect Conference website, or IMEC.world. That once again is www.imec.world. Definitely go check that out. Stay up to date on what we're doing here in the conference and what other goodies we have going on. To the person that just asked in the chat, is this a conference? I think we're going to have mini conferences, as you guys have been calling them, or we call them the Open Tables Show here. But yeah, mini conferences, I'm not opposed to that idea. But back to the topic at hand, we have 6 nominees. Let's go ahead and now we can get our first nominee on screen. There we go. See, the producer knew more about what I was doing than I did. She had it going on. Our first nominee, ladies and gentlemen, we heard about it a moment ago, Shazam movie by DC Comics. So many people say they saw the movie in the throne scene, but director Sandberg said he cut it early on. So do you guys, in the movie Shazam, now let's be clear about what Shazam movie we're talking about. We're not talking about the movie that disappeared from reality. As much as we would like to nominate that, we have to nominate things that actually exist in this reality. So we're talking about the movie that came out, a year ago or so, about the superhero Shazam. I know a lot of you got a little upset about that. I know I did. I didn't like them taking that name and making a movie called that. That's an aside. There's a scene in there, the throne scene, that the director said he cut early. For those that have seen this movie, do you remember the throne scene being in it?
While people are commenting, I'll just add to this as well. Right now, you can look this up on YouTube. This throne scene is known as a deleted scene. And it's like, if you get the DVD or something, it's, watch the deleted scenes. But there's a lot of people that are like, whoa, that was in the main movie. And what it is, it's like all the kids growing up. So the Shazam character and all of his friends are sitting in thrones. And then there's like 7 thrones and there's 6 people sitting in them. And there's one that's empty. A lot of people remember seeing it. But now it's always been a deleted scene. So it definitely gets your effect. It got people's effect, and it actually made the news. It made like headline news about this because a lot of people couldn't understand it because they remember seeing it, especially people that don't watch deleted scenes. So there you go.
So early on in the Mandela Effect, we had another situation like this. Cynthia, do you remember I think it was a news reporter that something happened on the show, then they didn't show it, but a lot of people swear they seen it?
Well, there was a Danish TV show called
That's the one.
Yeah, and that was reported in the August 2018 Reality Shifters. And this was a very big deal in Denmark because people were glued to this TV show. It was just a series. And as it moved forward, a young couple got married. And Anderson was the young newlywed husband, but his wife, for some reason, locked him out on the balcony, and it was really cold out there. And everybody remembered he's just out there, locked outside of the apartment on the balcony, just in the freezing cold, and like in his underwear or something. But that scene never existed. So that's a classic example from the country of Denmark, and that it's a big deal if it happens in your country. We are the International Mandela Effect Conference, so
Right.
we cover these.
And if you guys have any across the world you'd like to send us, definitely we're always looking for stories like that. There was another one though. I can't remember. There's really vague details right now because it's been a couple of years. But basically, it was an American TV show, and there was either somebody had a heart attack or had passed away, or something had happened where the person had passed away accordingly during the taping of the show. And a lot of people will come up to the host, "Hey, I remember when such and such happened." The problem is they never aired that particular scene, but a large amount of people recall seeing this particular event that did happen, but people shouldn't have known about it because it was never officially aired. So it's not the first time we've seen scenes like that appear or disappear or both in movies, right?
Well, I think another great example was Forrest Gump, and how there's the deleted scene of him saying it the way we all remember it, but most of us only saw the movie. We didn't see this, behind the scenes footage of him saying life is like a box of chocolates, which is what we all remember. And in the movie, he says life was like a box of chocolates, and it's always been that way. So I mean, there again, you have proof that it existed the other way, but in a place that none of us saw, or many of us didn't even see it there, so we couldn't have gotten it confused.
That's brilliant. Great example.
Yeah, even like if I were to say the phrase, "You got some splaining to do," like we would first think that was Ricky Ricardo. I Love Lucy. Never said it in this timeline. So,
I said that to Art Bell when I was interviewed by him. I said, we've got some splaining to do. I didn't even realize at the time what a Mandela effect that was. It was like afterward, I'm like, oh my gosh. Talking about the Mandela effect. Wow. Yeah.
Just a real quick aside on the I Love Lucy, since we're sticking on the TV theme at least. I work at a hotel chain, and I went into the lobby one day and I seen this group of older people, old enough to be my grandparents, and let's be honest, and they were discussing I Love Lucy, and one of them said, "You got some splaining to do." And as a Mandela Effect person, we have a decision at that moment. Do we go all in, or do we just walk away? So I knew I would not be accepted if I started talking Mandela Effect, reality change, all of that. So I played it slick. I looked at him, I said, "You know what? I remember that line a lot, but I'll be darned, I was watching the shows the other day and I can't find where he says it." And I just left it at that. Let them do their own homework. Let them prove me wrong. They never came back to me with it, but it's things like that the I Love Lucy or something. I've just found it's easier to go, I can't find that. Can you?
Good one.
All right. And our Golden Mandy. So our first Golden Mandy nominee, ladies and gentlemen, Shazam, the superhero movie, and the throne room scene that apparently a lot of people remember seeing, but is not officially within the movie. And our next nominee for the Golden Mandy of 2021, ladies and gentlemen, is Mandy number 2, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Now, I'm a Harry Potter fan. Love me some Harry Potter, especially the movies. This is one of those I read or watched the first 2 movies, read book 3 through whatever number they ended on. Loved this series. Harry Potter fans are baffled though after discovering a secret moment hidden in the movie, a moment they don't remember seeing in the first 90 watch throughs. The scene, which depicts a poster of Gilderoy Lockhart, the wizard who teaches Harry's Defense Against the Dark Arts class during his second year at Hogwarts. Near the end of Chamber of Secrets, Lockhart accidentally wipes his own memory with a misfired spell. As post-credit scene shows, his memory never recovers. So what is the question in this one? Chris?
I knew you were going to ask me, and I'm not a big Harry Potter. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. Cynthia, do you know this one a little better?
Well, I've read the books, but I haven't watched all the movies. I have to put that out there. But what I think is interesting, there are many interesting aspects of this. Look at the fact that this is a memory situation. So I think the fact that we're getting a different, the whole thing has to do with memory itself, that memory is erased and can never be recovered. And then that's not the way people are remembering that this happened. So it's like this secret moment hidden in the movie. It's very different kind of an outcome than what people remember having seen. So I unfortunately I haven't watched this movie. I did watch the first Harry Potter movie, but then I don't know, they weren't quite the same as the books, so my follow through is poor. How about you, Shane? Did you see this one?
No, my kids watched it. I haven't watched any of them, so I have no idea about this one. I'm sorry. Wish I had more for you.
I will add that this one was interesting because, again, it made like the news. I forget what news publication it was in, but it was talking about the Mandela Effect and using this as an example. And I think there were like a lot of young people on TikTok that were all talking about it. And I think that's how it reached like more of a mainstream type of thing. So if you were a big Harry Potter fan, this would make an impact for you if you were from a timeline where the events didn't happen quite this way.
That's right.
And it's interesting that of all things it deals with, it's memory, right? Of
That's
all
what I think.
things that could be messed with, it's one dealing directly with memory. That's pretty wild. So this is nominee number 2 for the Golden Mandy, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And I told you guys a little bit ago we were going to circle back. We're going to circle back around to our third nominee now, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up, Mandy, nominee number 3, Holmes and Watson. That's right. Released in 2018, considered the worst movie ever. I did not see it because the reviews were just that bad. Not gonna lie, it was bad reviewed. A comedy based on Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, starring Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. Did not win any Oscars. Mandela Effect. So, do you guys remember this movie coming out? Because a lot of people don't even remember this existing in the timeline at all.
And that is the Mandela Effect here. A lot of people don't remember it, and I don't remember anything that bad coming out that Will Ferrell was associated with. It's just, that's strange. So it's just news to me that this was released.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do personally remember it. Like I said, I didn't see it. I remember it was a horrible flop. But the only reason it even ran across my radar is I'm like a super huge Sherlock fan. So anything in reference to that, I'm probably going to know something about it.
And I'll add to that too. Like my oldest son, he's a big like Will Ferrell fan. So I'm going to find out. I'm going to ask him if he ever saw this movie. And he's like, yeah. He's like, he did see it. He said he watched it on YouTube. He paid $5 for it or something, and it was like the worst $5 he ever spent. And I asked him, I'm like, well, when did you see it? And he saw it around the holidays of last year. He thought that's when it came out because it was on YouTube. So he saw it within about 4 or 5 months ago. So that is interesting because it was released in 2018. So for a lot of people have heard about this movie. It's not a Mandela Effect. For me, I was doing some research into Sherlock Holmes, and I came across the trailer for this. And when I was watching the trailer, I'm like, man, I know I would have at least heard of this movie. So I don't know what timeline I'm coming in from, but I'm happy to be with you guys right now. And I don't know if it's possible for us to play the trailer. We can try. I think Heather might have it queued up. Okay, here we go. There's no volume.
So we do apologize with the volume issue here.
It's probably better.
Right. I could probably save our butts in talking over it, but this is once again a Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, the same one that did Step Brothers, right?
Yeah. So maybe Heather, you can play it, and we'll just talk over it. We don't need to have the volume. That way, too, we definitely wouldn't get flagged.
Right. So Sony Pictures in Columbia put it out. It looks like this was. Like I said, I didn't watch it. I heard a lot of bad reviews about it, but a lot of people don't even remember it ever existing. Now, it doesn't look right to me as far as these scenes. I don't even recognize some of these scenes, but again, wasn't one that I would know that well.
But you did see it, right, Jerry? You watched it?
No, I remember it being.
Oh, okay. You never did one. Okay.
No, I didn't actually watch it. I remember it being a thing, like it coming out and being available, but I didn't know. I
Okay.
would not watch something like that because the reviews were just so bad.
And I'll tell you, I probably watch more movie trailers than I actually watch the actual movies. So I probably would have seen this and would have been good with that. But I was watching the trailer. It was just so unfamiliar.
I've never seen the trailer, and that's really odd not to have even seen the
Now,
trailer.
I will tell you that none of this looks familiar to me. But I've seen the trailers. If that tells you anything.
Well, I think I would have laughed at least once during this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, what about the chat? Is it new for you guys? Can you chime in? Have you heard of this movie?
So
Did you see it?
across the board on the chat, it looks like some of them said they seen it in cinema. Some of them said it's a really bad movie.
We got some Step Brothers fans. Surely you would have heard of it if.
Albie Yarder says never
think.
heard it in my recollection.
You know what? We might want to move this along a little faster.
Yeah.
Not to. I just looked at the time.
Understood. Yes, ma'am. We got some surprises coming up, guys. But moving along, our next nominee for the Golden Mandy. So far we've got Shazam's Hidden Scene, Chamber of Secrets, a changed scene, Holmes and Watson, entire movie. People don't remember. Next up on the list, producer, we have Pinocchio. So this is one that made the news, right? We've had a couple on the list that have made the news, and that's how we found them.
Yes.
This one was huge. Chris, I want you to go ahead and explain this because you were flipping on this one.
Yeah, so, again, it was something that set social media, lit up social media this past Sunday and into Monday because people were, watching the Oscars and they were seeing the category for best costume design, best makeup, and all the different categories. And this one came up. As a matter of fact, maybe while I'm talking, we could play. If Heather has it queued up, we can just play it without the volume so people can see like what the imagery of the movie was like and why it could have it was voted for like best costume design and best makeup. So it's a live action type movie. And when people saw it, they actually thought it was fake. Now, some people remembered it, but most people did not. It was a very, very interesting phenomena. Most people just didn't realize, they didn't know what the Oscars were doing. They thought maybe a movie got snuck in, and it made even more of an impact because people were saying, I've been stuck home in the quarantine and I've been watching every new movie I can. And this movie never came up for me to even see. So it made a big impact.
That is amazing.
People felt like they were being trolled, right? That this movie come out of nowhere. It was a fake movie, and somehow it got nominated in all these categories.
Exactly.
Right.
That is wild. Best costume design, best makeup, best hairstyling, live action film. What in the world for a film that nobody remembers? Now, I'm a Pinocchio fan. That was one of those movies from my childhood. It's just kind of one of those nostalgia things.
Yeah.
I don't remember this coming out. I don't remember the trailers. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know it existed until you guys brought it up, and the fact that it was in the Oscars,
right,
and was nominated for stuff. And like most people, what is going on? Never heard of this movie at all, ever.
Oh.
Nobody I talked to's heard of it either. It's brand new.
Classic Mandela Effect of an epic scale.
Yeah, for real, yeah.
So many people were affected with this one. This isn't just one or two people thinking that they hadn't heard of it before. It's like a vast number of people, including
right.
myself.
It's not like people weren't home to see it.
Right.
know?
Exactly.
To the point that it was so disturbing that Newsweek wrote an article about it, right?
That's a different contender.
That's our next. That's our sixth nominee.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll go to the fifth.
So the fifth nominee. So next up, after Pinocchio, the movie that never was, that now is, our next nominee, Brie Benage's, and Lord help me, I hope I'm saying this right. 2021 TEDx Youth Talk. So I'm the one that ran upon this one, so I can talk a little bit about this. Titled The Mystery Behind the Mandela Effect. She reviews the Mandela Effect, provides examples, and explains the implications. Now, this is the part that just gave me chills when she was explaining the implications of it in a multitude of ways. I don't want to give too much away, but how it impacts both academia and modern society. And I love the fact she really went into the academic part of this. This talk was given at a TEDx event. This is the amazing part. Using the TED conference format but independently organized by a local community. Why is this amazing? Because there has been a number of people who have attempted to give TED Talks on the topic of Mandela Effect. One of them we know personally. And Chris, you tried that, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, TEDx has a program in Hartford, Connecticut that I've been to the TEDx events, and I actually, made an entry to talk about the Mandela Effect. And I got a very polite letter back from them that said, we've rejected your proposal. Please do not write back to us and ask us why. It was like the end of the story. So it is just so wonderful that someone, especially a young person, was able to go and address, the TED community with this type of information that the world really needs to know about.
And such a good job too. It's worth watching the video, the whole thing. So here's one we can wholeheartedly recommend.
And it's all of maybe 10 or 15 minutes, not very long at all. But like I said, it gave me chills. So that is nominee number 5, Bree Benage's 2021 TEDx Youth Talk. And our next nominee on the list, our last nominee on the list, I'll tell you what, this is going to be a hard decision. It really is, or it was. For those, like I said, we've got the winning envelope right here. Not an easy decision this was to make. Nominee number 6, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. As reported in Newsweek, okay, I got ahead of myself. My stories were mixed up. This is what I get for waking up and jumping right into a show. As reported in Newsweek magazine, April 27, 2021, literally just yesterday, Disney fans are shocked to discover the Seven Dwarfs don't sing the song the way we remember singing the song. So I remember, hi-ho, hi-ho.
Hi-ho. It's off to work we go. Yeah.
There we go. Everybody here remembers that. All right. Love it. So it's home from work we go. Is anyone else a little confused here? So do you guys remember that? Hi ho, it's home from work we go. I don't remember that. How about you guys?
No, this is new, but I did very similarly for the Mandela Effect. I also heard about this one back in 2018, 2019. So for me, it's not new for me personally, but I get it that people are coming on and noticing it now. So good job, people noticing. Yes, it's different.
Well, what my wife notices that an hour and 7 minutes into it, you can actually hear the original version, Off to Work We Go, being sang in the background. So a little snippet of residue right there in the movie, but you have to put on your closed captioning and you'll see it's Off to Work We Go. So we know it existed, but it's just not featured in the main part of the song that everybody remembers.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, and you can go to lyrics.com and confirm it for yourself. Look up the song and you'll see it's Home from Work We Go on lyrics.com. So that's the way it's always been in this timeline.
So let's go to the envelope. Do we have some music or something?
Well, before we do, I'd like to point out the chat says it's new to me, mind blown. Jesus, new to me. Everybody says this is brand new to them. Carlos Cicerino once again, new to Jesus, new to me. I remember the song The Dwarfs in Spanish or English. There's a lot of people that say that this is all brand new to them. So, ladies and gentlemen, the 6 nominees for the Golden Mandy Award. That's right. And the winner is... All right. It is
mesmerized.
Bree Bennage, 2021. Bree. So, for those that don't know, we did have it set up to Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you the winner of the 2021 Golden Mandy Award, the one who gave an incredible, chilling, mind-blowing TEDx talk. Ladies and gentlemen, Bree Bennage, and please tell me I'm saying your last name right. I do apologize if not.
Everyone says Bennage. You're good.
Welcome, Miss Bree. Congratulations on winning the Golden Mandy. That is incredible. You're still in high school, correct?
Yes, I am a junior.
A junior in high school. And what got you to find first the Mandela Effect? What brought you into this concept?
I think it was just something where I was always intrigued with like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And I ended up finding like a video about the Mandela Effect. I'm like, I don't know what this is. So I watched it and my mind was blown because I didn't even hear about that Snow White one that like just came up. I didn't even hear about that one. I heard about ones like, mirror, mirror on the wall. It's not actually that. It's magic mirror on the wall. And it freaks me out. And so I've always heard so many different like examples, and it's always been so intriguing to me. So when I had the opportunity to give a TED talk, I was like, I'm going to do this because this is something I'm genuinely like so intrigued about and so excited to talk about. So it was just something where.
What was the first one? I think you mentioned it in the talk, but what was that first Mandela Effect that just grabbed you?
The first one I mentioned in the talk was people believing that Benjamin Franklin was a president, as he is very well known, and some people just, they're under the impression that he was a president. But the one that really struck me was the Berenstain Bears one, because I grew up reading Berenstain Bears, and when I saw all the talk about it, I nearly passed out. I was like, hold on, this is not it.
That was the first one I ever found, and it took me all of 5 minutes to realize this isn't right. I
Thank you.
from day one, something's wrong here. I seen it in the video, and I was ready to write a correction letter to the video maker, but I couldn't find the evidence to prove it. It blew my mind.
It's so crazy. And like you look for your books from when you're younger, because I used to read them all the time. So I'm looking for the books, and I saw one, and it said like Berenstain, and I was like, hold on, I don't remember this.
So did you approach TEDx, or did TEDx approach you, or how did that play out?
My school, I have a wonderful teacher, Miss Taylor, and she's gotten in contact with them, and they did the same thing last year where the debate students are able to do TED Talks for the TEDx at wherever, or TEDx Youth at wherever it is. So I had watched them the past 2 years since I've been at the school, and I was like, oh, I can do one now because I'm in the class. So
right
towards the middle-ish of the year, we started working, and we were saying like, okay, what do we want our talks to be about? What topics should we talk about? And we had our classmates like vote on some of them, saying like, oh, I really think you should use this one. So we had like 3 different ones that we could choose from, that we chose. And I knew in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't care which 3 I put in, no matter what, I'm still doing the Mandela Effect. I'm like, I don't care what my classmates say, I'm doing this.
Well, let me tell you, as an adult, it takes a lot of courage to talk about this. So I can only imagine as a high schooler what it would take to really like stand up on a stage and say, yes, I believe this is real. I know it. I've experienced it. That's amazing. And before I turn the questions over to the rest of the board, I got one more question. Based on that, do you see, and you mentioned your classmates earlier, do you see this as kind of a well-known thing among people in your age group? Is it accepted, or is it still kind of like, ooh, you weirdo?
I think it's a lot more accepted in my age group, and my generation, I guess, just because we've seen a lot of it, and I feel like my generation is a lot more like into like conspiracies and stuff, where we're looking at it, we're like, wait, this isn't right, and we're trying to like figure it out in our own brains. And I know, especially for me, I'm so adamant. Like, I remember this. This is what it was. No one can change my mind. I remember it specifically like this. And it's just something where I feel like my generation and my classmates are a lot more aware of it, but not everyone, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think everyone in my generation is over here like, oh yeah, Berenstain Bears, Nelson Mandela, like, whoa, this is crazy. But I know, like, a few of my friends, I especially went over them with, like, my best friends, and I was like, you need to listen to me. You're going to freak out. You'll have no idea what I found today.
So that is amazing. I love hearing the younger generation is like still so enthused in this, because that's one thing I worry about is as a seasoned paranormal researcher in general is having that next generation that will pick up the gauntlet and carry on the research. So it's so good to know from somebody in that area that is like the kind of mindset you guys have. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the rest of the group here. I don't want to hog the mic. Do you guys have any questions for our winner, Miss Bree?
I just had a comment to make about Pikachu because you mentioned one of your friends, and my son was actually told to wrap it up in art class, and he had to hurry and do the black spot on the towel, and he remembered having to rush and kind of fill it in or whatever, but he didn't get to keep his artwork. And in your talk, you talked about a friend that pulled out the old artwork and the towel wasn't black anymore. And so that started this discussion with my son. I'm like, wow, wouldn't that be so crazy if you remember drawing it only to pull it out and see that you never drew it, but everything else looked like your work. But, you know, you remember doing one part of it and it's completely different. So that was a cool confirmation for my son in your talk.
Thank you. Yeah. That was actually like my best friend. We like talk to each other every day over like voice calls or video calls. And I had been telling her about this TED Talk because I was so excited for it. And I've been telling her about everything about it. And I mentioned the Pikachu and she's like, wait, you're telling me Pikachu doesn't? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, I specifically remember drawing this specific photo and drawing that part. And she pulled it out. Like, she went to find it and she pulled it out and it wasn't there. And she was like, I swear to you, I remember like drawing this.
That brings up, yeah, I think that's the most powerful experience to have, is one where it's personal like that with you or a friend. Have you had any personal Mandela effects that aren't so much global, but one that just hits you like, wow, this really changed?
I think the main ones are probably the Berenstain Bears and Pikachu, but this is going to sound ridiculous, but there's one Mandela effect that I cannot get over, and it's Febreze. Because I always remember Febreze having 2 E's because it was Febreze. And when I found out there were not 2 E's, I lost my mind. I still don't believe that there's only 1 E in Febreze.
That's great.
Little funny story for you on Febreze real quick. I work in a hotel, and I only recently in the last couple of years had moved to the area I live in now. Well, before I got here, a friend of mine had already started working my GM as far as telling her about the Mandela Effect, things like that. So I brought it up to her one day, and before I could finish asking the question, she looks at me and she goes, Febreze. It had 2 E's. I know it. I'm sure of it. I know that was 2 E's. So I don't care the rest of them. I know that's not right. So, you're not alone. That's not weird at all.
I don't know. I just remember like the commercials because they would be on randomly, like when I'm in the family room. And I always remember, I'm like, oh, Febreze, yeah. And I always remember it because it's like, in my mind, it was like, oh, Febreze, like it's like a breeze of like good smelling air or something. So I was like, that makes so much sense. And then I searched it up and I saw 1 E and I was like, okay, this has to be photoshopped. This has to be photoshopped. This is not real.
And I just wanted to say, Bree, like, wow, you did a great job. Like, I was just so impressed watching you. I was just so impressed. So
thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that, you know, your way of bringing it to people's attention. That was great. And towards the end of your presentation, you kind of gave some possible theories as to what might be causing it. Just review with us what those theories might be that you talked about.
So some of the theories that I mentioned at the end, I'm trying to like remember because that was like a few months ago. I remember one was what if everything around us is changing, but we just don't realize it? Or like something with time, or like lots of people have started thinking, oh, does it have to do with alternate realities? Because that's obviously another big conspiracy theory among so many people is, oh, well, I believe that there are alternate realities and they switch and whatnot. And so lots of people have started tying that to the Mandela effect to be like, what if we're like switching realities but just not realizing it? And that's why we can't find the stuff we remember, is because we're in another reality where it's not that.
Exactly. I like that, how you brought that out. And you mentioned parallel universes and that concept as well. Yeah, really good. It gives people something to think about, because we all have our own little theories about what's going on, and it's nice to get everyone's input. So
Definitely. Thank you.
thank you.
Towards
Thank
the
you.
end, just one more thing real quick and we'll close out. I do apologize. Towards the end of that talk, like he said, you brought that up. You also brought up the implications, academically speaking, of what this could mean. Could you just very briefly touch on that?
Yes. I'm trying to remember the exact words that I've used. I just think that this should be taught in an academic environment, because it is something so like bizarre, and you hear about all these things and then just out of nowhere you realize you were wrong the entire time. So I think it's very important that whether it's its own class or if it's in another class where it's at least mentioned briefly about what's going on and how it's affecting the world and how it's affecting everyone in the world, and how they start blaming their own memory, and they just don't believe they can remember things now because of a few examples of the Mandela effect.
Absolutely. And it opens up new doors in psychology. Not to say we're crazy, and that's just it. It's making psychology second guess things that they thought they knew about human consciousness, because there's too many people that clearly are very stable, very mentally stable, that are experiencing this Mandela effect. So it's really making academia wake up, take another look at stuff that is considered fringe. I absolutely love it. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. Bree Bennage, can you say your last name for me?
Bennage or Bennage.
Bennage, Bree Bennage. I want to say it correctly, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, if you want to stick around, I think we're going to open it up to Q&A. Could you stick around a little bit, Bree, so if people have questions for you in the chat?
Yes, I definitely can, yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
This is so amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions for Bree or for our panel here, or anything about the show? I would love to hear them. Let's scroll back up, see if we've missed any questions in the meantime. Bree, do you have any questions for us? Have you ever heard of IMEC before this?
I hadn't. It was actually like a very big shock, because I just like out of nowhere I saw a message from Cynthia and I was like, I don't know who this is. At first I didn't know if it was real. I was like, what? And then my dad got a message too, and I was like, wait, this is real. Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, whoa, how did I get recognized? Like, how did someone, especially like a group of people like this, find my video or like even think about it for like an award show? And it was so cool.
Well, I can tell you in this community, we keep an eye on new Mandela Effect videos, because it's such a fringe topic in comparison to most other topics that, you know, we kind of try to keep up on the newer stuff. I personally am the one that ran across your video. I'm also the one that originally had the idea to start this. I'm not the one who started it. It was my idea. Me, Cynthia, Chris, and Shane as a team pulled this all together. But yeah, it's an absolute honor and pleasure to have you involved. I love having you here. The question is, how many people remember having a near-death experience? So have you ever experienced a near-death experience? And we'll get to this next question here in just a moment, prior to finding the Mandela effect, because a lot of people have reported that.
I don't think personally I have gone through something like that, but I definitely believe that people have, because I mean, there's so many people just coming out being like, I remember this, but everyone's telling me it's not true.
Right.
And I've had like memories of like leaving my old house, but I wouldn't have been old enough to be going to school, but I remember going to school. So I don't think that's technically like Mandela effect, but it was just definitely something that made me think about it and just how like your memory can just mess with you sometimes.
Well, I would disagree. It wouldn't be Mandela effect. Myself and a number of others have things that we've done in our life, but when we look back on the year that we know we did it, it doesn't match the year the reality said that happened. So
that happens a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. You're not alone in that either. That's actually part of the effect. A lot of people have reported this. Bree, question for Bree. Do you think we are in another timeline? What are your thoughts on what the ME is? Thank you from Nachiketa.
I definitely believe that there's a possibility. I don't want to concrete just say, yes, I believe that we're in another timeline, because you really can never know. But I do believe that there are instances and examples that point to that being a possible thing going on. So I definitely acknowledge that, but I'm not going to go on and be like, oh yes, we're definitely, yeah. No question about it.
I love that. Keeping an open mind. You don't have any like theory you've nailed down. Do you think this is a good possibility of what's going on? Maybe not 100% this is it, but do you have anything that you're like more leaning towards away from others? Or
I think the closest thing I'm leaning towards is the parallel universe, alternate reality kind of thing, just because in my mind it makes more sense, because you always hear like, oh, with alternate realities and parallel universes, it's little differences. It's not giant differences. It's just little ones. And so things being spelt differently, or a character looking just a little bit different, like not drastically different, but one part that's just not actually there, like the Monopoly Man or Pikachu, just missing those key details that you specifically remember.
absolutely. Have you ever seen what's called a flip-flop in the Mandela Effect?
I don't believe so.
So this is something that we've experienced, not a whole lot. It's kind of rare, but like, for instance, you mentioned the Flintstones in your talk, and you don't remember the first T in there. So this is funny because I remember Flintstones. Then for 2 weeks, it lost that T. It was gone. It was just Flintstones. And then after 2 weeks, that T showed up as if it had always been there. This is what we call the flip-flop.
Oh, that's even more creepy.
Yeah, back and
You're
forth.
like, wait.
It's really convincing though, because when that happens to you, it's like, okay, that something totally happened, and it's really hard to deny that something happened at that point.
Definitely. My mom actually had mentioned, she's like, no, it was always the Flintstones, like with the T, because she grew up watching it. And I was over here and I had heard of it. I've seen clips, but some Mandela effects like that one, I think, at least for me, one reason I remember it differently is because not many people will go and say the Flintstones. They just kind of go, oh, it's the Flintstones.
Right.
So I think that's one reason that I remember it a little differently, is just hearing wise. I never heard the first T. So I was like, oh, it's the Flintstones. There's no other T.
Right. So you assume just upon hearing it that this is the way something is, when it could be spelled with a multitude of letters that don't even belong in the word sometimes. I've had that happen before too.
Another flip-flop is Chick-fil-A. If you want another example, Chick-fil-A is famous for going all over the place. The spelling of that. Like
So-
CHIC or CHICK. Yeah.
Because I always remembered it being CHIC, because it was, the entire like thing was on the billboards and everything. It was cows doing it, and cows don't know how to spell. That was the whole like gag about it. And then I was like looking it up, and it was like, no, it's like chick, like chicken. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Well, we always had a joke. We called it chic fillet. Because it was CHIC. It was chic, not chick. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Bree, is timelines a thing talked about among your peers? Asked Karen Kinsey.
Um, Obviously I can't speak for like my entire generation, but I believe that a lot of us do think about it at least. Um, Maybe not like on the daily or like every week, but we have those moments. I can hopefully say like as a whole, we have moments where we're like, is this real? Like, is this actually happening or is it all in my head? And that's like a whole thing that I've noticed a lot is, oh, what if this isn't actually happening? Like it's all in my head, but what if it's not? And you have no way of being like, oh yeah, like I'll try and pinch myself to wake myself up, but in reality, that won't wake you up.
And I love just the idea that the concept is being accepted by this younger generation. Because my generation, when people started saying that at first, lost their minds.
Yeah, they'd say like you're crazy. Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Start looking for white lab coats for you that go on the other way, stuff like that. Another question from Najiketa. What does Bree or anyone else on the panel think about residue? Are you familiar with the concept of Mandela Effect residue?
I believe I've heard about it, but I'm not 100% like remembering exactly what it is.
Finding a Berenstain Bear book, the only one that's ever existed, for instance. Finding things that are like we remember that according to reality shouldn't be that way anyway.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember, especially with Berenstain Bear, I had seen someone had posted either a video or a picture, and it was either a technology little thing or like packed away to this one book, and it was spelt Berenstain. It wasn't Berenstain. It wasn't anything incorrect. And everyone freaked out because they're like, wait, so are we correct? And everything's like, what's going on? And just different things like
toy
that.
that has the thing on it that says Berenstain. I don't know if you've seen that. There's a little plush Berenstain Bear toy, and on this tag it says Berenstain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is residue. Are you familiar much with residue, and what do you think of that? How, if it is timelines, for instance, how would residue even exist?
I think that the way it would exist and be such a prominent thing, well, maybe not prominent, but something that people pay attention to and look out for, is having to do with more like realities and stuff like that. Because with the timeline, that is a place where lots of people get stuck, and I bet psychologists especially get stuck because they're thinking, okay, well, we have something, so everyone was right, but in one instance. So how does one person say, like, one person has the plush bear, one person has a book, and it says it the way everyone remembers? It's something where you have to think about, well, how does everyone remember it when just this one person has what everyone remembers? Because obviously they're not like, there wasn't like YouTube and stuff when Berenstain Bears was around. Like, it wasn't as big as it is now. So it wouldn't be someone like filming a bear being like, oh yeah, this is the Berenstain Bears. Everyone remember that? Wow. But instead it's something where you really have to like pay attention and see, what do you remember? What is still the same? What has changed? What things do you specifically remember seeing? And you can even pull it up and say, yes, look, I have what I remember. And then connect that with, why does no one else have it? Or why is every other product or things like that different than my one thing, which everyone remembers? Because obviously I didn't share this thing with the entire world for everyone to remember it that way.
And that's what makes this such a even more crazy event, is the fact that everybody, like us four, I had known Shane prior, but basically us four did not know each other. Yet we all independently found the Mandela Effect. We independently agreed on these Mandela Effects, that these are different. And you've got this across the world. People, like you mentioned, I love you brought this up, they don't know each other. They've not met. They've not coordinated. They've not, they didn't all get together and say, all right, we're going to say this, and this is different. It just doesn't happen like that. We've all come together organically and naturally on something that we all say, hey, something ain't right here. That this doesn't look right. This is not how I remember. And I love that about this effect is the fact that it is so organic. Everybody independently says, no, wait, this ain't right.
Exactly.
And just to add to that too, another example of that is a product called Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing. A lot of people remember that name. They remember the product Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing. It's never been that. It's always been Kraft Stovetop Stuffing. But why would all these millions of people remember Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing? It's just such a strange, unique name. So it just shows that you can't have millions of people with all having the same exact false memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same way with the turkey leg. I mean, I can think of 1,000 other items I would have remembered being in his hand before a turkey leg would have been what I misremembered if, in the Henry VIII painting.
Right. Stouffer's actually took my cousin off the fence and had him crawling up my back door. Hey, man. Hey. Well, what's going on here? Are you kidding me? So that's the one that actually pushed him over the fence. One last question here, and I think we're going to close out on this question. I like this question. Hi, Vibin 888 says, what do you guys think about personal objects disappearing from your home? Mandela Effect situation, timeline shifts, or if Cynthia will indulge me and explain for just a moment what JOT is.
Yeah, JOT is just one of those things, JOTT. It was a phrase coined by Mary Rose Barrington in England, where she was in charge of the Psychical Society for Research and wrote a book by that name, JOT, J-O-T-T. So she actually, although I'd never heard of her before until like last year, she'd been doing research since the early 1900s and documenting case studies of objects disappearing from people's homes and reappearing and transforming and transporting. Those are my terms. She would call them walkabouts and different things like that. I just found her work, even though I'd been studying this area for more than 20 years. Some people say that I'm new to them. And for me, Mary Rose Barrington was new to me. So to answer the question, I think what they're getting at is, are those personal objects disappearing, Mandela type situations? I'd say yes, it's all a related sort of a spectrum thing. I've done questionnaires and research with surveys of hundreds of people asking when they witnessed reality shifts if they were alone or with other people. And most of the reality shifts were occurring with other people. So we are social animals. We do notice things differently. And when one of us brings it to the attention of others, then we all start noticing the effect and the phenomenon that much more. So I think it is related, but look, could open it up. Everybody get a chance to chime in.
So, Bree, have you had these instances where things like your keys, this is a really popular one, you set the keys down, you know where you put them, you turn around, they're gone. And then they show up later. Have you had that instance first off?
I feel like I definitely have, because there have been times where I have misplaced things, or I just remember putting something down and I've looked everywhere and I can't find it. Like, this is going to sound really bad, but it happened with my driver's license and I just can't find it. I remember it has to be in the house. I've looked everywhere where it would be, but it's just nowhere to be found.
So you're really about when it pops back up.
Yeah, I'm like waiting. I'm like, any day now, hopefully.
Yeah, it helps sometimes to relax. It's hard to do when something important just goes missing, but what you want to do is kind of get into that relaxed state. So recognizing you could be moving between realities. So it's okay if it comes back. No questions asked. That's how I do it. Just like, I'm not going to ask any. Just come on back. Then it usually does.
Come back at least soon, please. I'd like to get on the road.
Anybody else want to take a swing at this?
Well, Chris has such a great take on timelines. Oh, you mean the next question?
Well, this question here about the personal objects disappearing, is it a Mandela situation? Is it timeline shifts? Like, is that why they disappear and reappear? Or is it just another phenomenon altogether?
It's hard to say. I think it's all related. But in my house, I actually, I think you guys know I was on a Moneybags show with AJ, and my laundry got done without me doing it. I had stopped all the machines. I hadn't really done the laundry, and then I could hear them running again when we'd finished the show. It was a wrap, and we're in the back room. And I said, oh, wait a minute, there's a machine running. Let me check. impossibly, all of the laundry had moved into the dryer and it was all done, which is impossible. And this week, someone cleaned my kitchen floors and there's nobody else in the house. So I get stuff like that happening around here. But anything's possible. I'm mentioning it so these kind of things can happen, and it's not just objects going missing all the time. There are better types of reality shifts. So I'd like people to know about that.
I want the laundry reality shift. I got a mountain at this point. I would love the laundry reality shift to just go on and fix my laundry for me. That'd be great.
For real.
All right.
It was kind of.
Go ahead.
It was mind blowing when that happened. I mean, you have to have a very open mind and just feel like it's all cool. Get into that kind of a groove of it's fine, you're safe. That's what I love about Shane's channel, Unbiased and on the Fence, because it hits that high vibe groove, and you really feel like it's cool. We're safe. It's good. These reality shifts are happening for a good thing. And Chris, the Quantum Businessman channel, loves the timeline. That's what I was going to get into too. The timeline, just the fact that we can get onto that golden timeline, and when you're in the highest level groove, then you're seeing golden animals, and rainbow mountains, rainbow trees.
Yeah, just like the Wizard of Oz, like Dorothy had to follow the yellow brick road to find the wizard and get to the Emerald City. So that whole type of a concept. And in the videos that I make under the Quantum Businessman channel on YouTube, I talk about the concept of us being in a holographic universe. And I talk about the concept of us actually being in a dream. And we're actually possibly lucid dreaming right now. So all those types of concepts are all things that we should definitely look into and investigate. So you've got a lot to look into in the future. And I'm wondering, what are your plans for the future, Bree? You seem like a very smart young lady, and
thank you.
What you're planning.
I actually do acting a lot. Actually, tonight I have rehearsals for a show that I'm doing, like kind of like Broadway-esque. So I feel like that kind of helps me, especially on stages. I still get nervous. Don't get me wrong. I get super nervous. But I do plan on going into that. And another thing I'm looking at is double majoring in forensic sciences and investigation.
Cool. Awesome.
Which are very different things. But I don't know.
That's
I think it's just the thought of, I guess it kind of ties with conspiracy theories, just theories and like thinking, how does this happen? How did this happen? So I think that part of like detective work really intrigues me, where I'm like, oh, I could be here and be like, how did this happen? How did this crime happen? How did we get where we are now? And how does it all connect with maybe other crimes around the city or whatever?
You could do a show on forensics or something like that. I'm sure there's a way you can combine both of them together.
Definitely.
That's great.
That is amazing. As a researcher, hardcore, dedicated researcher, like I'm sure every last one of us back here are, I love seeing the next generation having that much passion about research and knowledge and detective work. Because you're right, detective work really is. That's what we do as researchers, is detective work. We're getting all the facts we can, putting it together to try to make a conclusive idea that makes sense. And logically, of course. And when you're trying to apply logic to an illogical situation, that's when it really gets fun, right?
Definitely.
Because let's be honest, what we were taught, not to say it's right or wrong, but what we were taught is reality set in stone. It can't change. It is what it is. But we're learning now that that is not the case.
They lied. They lied.
Right, absolutely. I love it. Even a younger generation sees it. Bree, final thoughts. Was there anything you would like to share with the audience, or just anything you like to get off your chest?
I just really wanted to thank you guys for bringing me on here and giving me the chance to do this, because I was so stoked when I figured out about this. And my father would like me to say that I would like to thank my wonderful, wonderful father for everything he does. And my mother would like me to thank her for driving me everywhere, and I appreciate them, and they're awesome.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Well, they have raised a very brilliant, very smart little girl, And we are absolutely honored and pleasured to have you here with us today. Congratulations. What an amazing talk you gave. Just once again, guys, if you have not heard this talk yet, we've got some people that are dropping the links over there in the chat. I've already seen it come up a couple of times. Amazing. Absolutely incredible talk from a youth nonetheless on the incredible topic of the Mandela Effect. I'm not even going to lie, guys. I know I've said this. I wasn't even kidding. It gave me chills. When we got to, especially to the end of the talk and the academic portion, and really, guys, if you haven't seen it, please. It literally gave me chills. Ladies and gentlemen, your winner for the 2021 April Golden Mandy's, Miss Bree Bennage. Did I say it right that time?
Bennage, yes.
Miss Bree Bennage, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause for Miss Bree. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Congratulations.
And
That's the
thank you
first
for-
ever. It's the first ever Mandy too. So this is historic.
Yes.
Yeah, you're the first.
Woo!
Yeah.
I think the first person to ever give a Mandela Effect TEDx talk, the first youth to do it, and the first one to win a Golden Mandy. So
Triple.
congratulations.
Thank
You
so
have
much. I
really
can hear my dad clapping in the other room.
And thank your parents for it. They did an amazing job. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Bree Bennage, Shane, Unbiased and On the Fence, Cynthia Sue Larson, Christopher Anacha, the Quantum Businessman, and our amazing producer, I forgot to mention her last time, major shout out to our producer, Heather from Frontline Entertainment. We sincerely appreciate all the incredible work you do for us here. You do a great job. You and I stay on the same wavelength. I don't know how you get some of these slides up and some of these comments up. I mean, I think them and they're on the screen. She's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for your International Mandela Effect Conference team and this month's mini conference. On behalf of all these folks, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, keep those eyes open for the Mandelas.
And keep asking, how good can it get?
How
How good can it get? Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.